Once again, there's a Democrat in the White House, and once again, the Middle East is on fire. Notice the correlation? Notice that when Democrats come into office, suddenly things really flare up. They flare up all over the world, but they flare up especially in the Middle East. Now, I realize the Middle East is tumultuous, it's turbulent, it's been that way for a long time, but it seems to really ratchet up into crisis mode when you have these Democrats in office. I'm not saying that you never have a flare-up at all under Republicans. In 1982, you had the Beirut bombing under Reagan, but by and large, the Middle East is a little bit quieter under Republicans. Why? Because of American strength, because of the projection of American power, because of the idea that if you try to act up, you might be taught a bitter lesson, which Reagan himself was willing to teach, as in the case, for example, of Libya. But Trump as well. Trump was a non-interventionist, but the basic idea was, listen, don't try anything with me because I'm not reluctant to administer a needed thrashing. But now we see rockets firing into Israel, retaliation by Israel, a real crisis brewing in the Middle East. But I want to show that this is not new. This happens all the time under the Democrats. Let's start with Jimmy Carter, because it's easy to forget, but Jimmy Carter is the guy who gave us Islamic radicalism on the world stage. Think about it. Before Jimmy Carter, the radical Muslims did not control a single country. Yes, you had activist groups and they were agitating over here and agitating over there. There was the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, in Egypt. But in 1979, the radical Muslims got a hold of their first major country, namely Iran. And the Khomeini revolution, which was a real revolution, I mean, it's lasted now 50 years. The Khomeini revolution, by and large, was a revolution that consolidated this idea that there is a global war between the Muslims and the infidels, that America is the great Satan, that martyrdom is to be recommended against Americans, death to America, death to the great Satan. We later heard this from bin Laden, from Al-Qaeda, but Khomeini invented this language. Think of it. No prior Muslim leader had ever said anything like this. Nasser didn't like America, but he would never talk in the way that Khomeini did. So Khomeini invented all this stuff. And how did we get Khomeini? Short answer, Jimmy Carter. Take a bow. America was allied with the Shah of Iran, and the Shah of Iran was weak. The mullahs began to agitate. And there was a sort of revolution brewing in Iran. The Shah begged America to help him out. And here was Jimmy Carter on his moral high horse, the Shah is a dictator. He's not accountable to his people. He has a secret police. I can't support the Shah. And so the United States pulled the Persian rug out from under the Shah, and we got Khomeini. Now, this was admittedly nincompoopery. This was the United States not being able to anticipate that that Iran would go from the frying pan into the fire, that things would get a lot worse. This was Jimmy Carter's failure. But the truth of it is we got the hostages, we got the Iranian Revolution. And notice, by the way, that the hostages were released when? On the very day Reagan was inaugurated. Why? Because Reagan basically communicated, if I come in and those hostages are still being held by Iran, there will be hell to pay. Reagan didn't say what he would do, but it was very clear he would do something dramatic. And so the Iranians decided, okay, time to let the Yankees go home. And that was that. Now we fast forward to the road to 9/11. And here I say the road to 9/11 because although 9/11 occurred in 2001 under Bush, the seeds of 9/11 were sown 5 years earlier. It was 1996 when bin Laden declared war against America. And bin Laden did a number of tests of American resolve. Radical Muslims did the Khobar Towers bombing at the military installation in Saudi Arabia, killing 19 U.S. soldiers. Clinton denounced it. Oh, it's horrible. Didn't do anything. August 7th, 1998, Al-Qaeda escalates. Bomb attacks against U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. 200 deaths, 4,000 wounded. Clinton orders a half-hearted strike He attacks a pharmaceutical plant in the Sudan. He does one attack against an Al-Qaeda facility in Afghanistan, basically kills a camel. And so this was recognized to be a pathetic, impotent. So Clinton, although obviously virile under the table, was impotent in the foreign policy area. In 2000, Al-Qaeda does its most devastating attack to date, a suicide attack on the USS Cole, blasting a 40-foot hole in the ship's hull, killing 17 sailors, and Clinton does nothing. And then the radical Muslims said, okay, well, clearly we're dealing with this paper tiger. Let's start working on 9/11. Now, Clinton would repeatedly say later, oh yes, we were trying to get bin Laden. We knew all about him. We were trying to find him. We just couldn't find him. Really? Well, bin Laden was at the time giving sermons in the Kandahar Mosque. He was holding press conferences. Former CIA analyst Michael Schur says that the United States had 10 chances to capture bin Laden or kill him, and used none of them. Apparently, the CIA couldn't find bin Laden, but bin Laden was interviewed by the leftist British writer Robert Fisk twice. In 1996, he met with the Pakistani reporter Abdelbari Atwan in Kandahar. Peter Arnett of CNN found bin Laden and interviewed him. So did John Miller of ABC News. In 1998, bin Laden had a press conference in southeastern Afghanistan. There was a Time magazine reporter present. So how were all these ordinary guys basically able to locate bin Laden, but the U.S. government couldn't? I mean, is it the case that we've got a CIA that is a bigger bunch of goofballs than the FBI here at home? That's a possibility. But the other possibility is that we knew where bin Laden was, but Clinton was too cowardly to do anything. See how we embolden our enemies at every stage. And then we fast forward to Obama and the Arab Spring. Now, Obama didn't cause the Arab Spring, but what's really interesting is that what Obama did was he used American foreign policy to try to encourage the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. After the Arab Spring, Obama's like, we have to support democracy in the region. We can't have this dictator Mubarak. He's got to go. And Mubarak does go. And so Obama was basically acting like he's not promoting radical Islam. He is just supporting democracy. But notice that right around the same time, there was a huge democracy movement in Iran. And this was calling for the mullahs to step down, to have a free election, to have true democracy in Iran. And what does Obama do? He refuses to support them. So notice that you've got democracy movements in two countries, one allied with the United States, Egypt, the other our enemy, Iran. Obama supports democracy in the country that overthrows our ally and brings in the Muslim Brotherhood, a force utterly hostile to the United States. Meanwhile, Obama goes into sort of slackjaw mode, into sort of inaction mode, into frozen mode when it comes to Iran. Why? To give the mullahs a chance to mobilize the military, crush the democracy movement, and consolidate their power. Now, even though I've been talking about Carter, Clinton, Obama, there are some key differences. And the differences come down to the simple question, are they stupid or are they evil? In general, when you're dealing with Democrats, it's both. It's a combination of the two. But generally, with a particular president, there's a leaning to one side or the other. Was Jimmy Carter stupid or was he evil? He was actually both. If you look at his conduct in Venezuela, for example, it's malicious, it's invidious. So this is not a good guy. I'm, by the way, not of the view this has been the best, most humane post-president. No, this guy was doing bad stuff even after the presidency. But if you look at his presidency itself, it was defined by nincompoopery. So Carter is in the nincompoop, stupid mode. Obama is in the malevolent, evil mode. Why? Because I think with Obama, he constantly knew what he was doing. He always camouflaged it and gave an explanation like, I'm supporting democracy. But when you begin to examine that explanation, you notice it breaks down. The bottom line of it is with Biden today, we have that trademark combination of Biden's ineptitude and democratic malevolence. So the Carter element and the Obama element are both combined in Biden. Biden himself may be more like Carter, but the people around Biden are more like Obama. In fact, many of them are retreads from the Obama administration. So once again, we're dealing with a very dangerous situation in the Middle East. Once again, our enemies are emboldened. And if you want a one-word explanation for why that is happening, that word is Democrats.